Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Hey, don't forget my pimento cheese. Of course.
It's okay, I'll take it from here.
Hey, can I get a seat?
For the love of palmetto cheese.
Well, here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I'm your host, Scott Alexander, and like I said last week, we just started our fourth season here, bringing you the biggest stars, coaches, athletes, musicians, right here from the city of New Orleans, the state of Louisiana, if they have anything to do with the Pelican State. They've been a player here, they grew up, or they've been playing here since they played professionally. You're probably going to see them on this show. We pared it down to a half hour, so last week I felt I left Dalton Hilliard a little too little time, but this week we're gonna rectify that because we're gonna talk basketball. Last week was all football. We had Zach Line with the Saints, Dalton Hilliard, the legend at LSU and with the Saints. This year I'm having another legend, a Final Four coach, John Brady, who took the 2006 LSU Tigers to the Final Four, also had that great team in 2000 with Stromile Swift. They got to the Sweet 16 and got upset, but he knows a little bit about players. He's calling games right now with the LSU Tigers and Chris Blair, so we're going to break down that team today, and then we're going to get to the college basketball landscape as a whole. Get into the SEC. LSU was 16-2 last season. Can they do that again? Probably not, but we're going to see the competition, what they have to go against. And we're also going to look at the national landscape, the Dukes, the North Carolinas, of course, the Kansases, all those big teams, the Kentuckys that you always hear about every year. In fact, if you name the top 6 teams at the top of your head, you can almost do it every year. Those are the top 6 again this year. You can throw Michigan State and Louisville in that crowd too. But we're going to have a great show for you today. And we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep bringing the Karl Malones and the Will Clarks and the Coach Orgerons and all the greats that we've had before. And I can't wait. We're in our 4th season, and it's only going to get better and better. I want to appreciate y'all for coming in and watching this show. And right now, stay tuned for my man, John Brady, coming up next on Prime Time Sport.
Hey, New Orleans, get ready for some rugby. There's a new pro sports team in town, and it's NOLA Gold. Now, I can tell you, once rugby gets in your blood, you never lose that bond. I'm John Goodman. Get your tickets now at nolagoldrugby.com, and I'll see you in the scrum.
Make no mistake about it, life's more fun with seafood.
Oysters don't swim.
They do in butter.
What'd you get?
A little bit of everything to make everyone happy.
Acme Oyster House. Life really is more fun with seafood.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At Mid-City Lane's the home of rock and roll.
Handling a gator like this can be scary, and this is pretty risky too. But do you know what's really dangerous? Dealing with the insurance company after your car wreck. If you've been injured, get a fighter. That's why you need to call me. I'm not afraid to handle them, and I'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve. So if you've been hurt, hire a professional. Just call me. Get it done.
Get Gordon. Get it done.
Call 1-800-653-9968.
Did you know that GMFS Mortgage is the largest independent mortgage company in Louisiana? Their 250 employees have helped over 79,000 customers make the dream of home ownership come true. They funded over $12.9 billion in loans right here in Southeast Louisiana. If you're ready to buy, build, or renovate a new home, or just need to refinance, call the company born and raised here, GMFS Mortgage.
Hey, don't forget my pimento cheese. Of course.
It's okay. I'll take it from here.
For the love of palmetto cheese.
Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
And welcome back to Primetime Sports. Hey, I got to tell you, last week we did all football. We had the great Dalton Hilliard and, of course, Zach Line, the Saints starting fullback. Well, this week I'm doing something I've never done because we have a shortened show. It's a half hour. And I felt like I cut Dalton off a little bit. So we're going the entire hour with one person, and we're going to talk hoops with one of my favorite guys ever. In fact, when he retired from coaching, he came on and was an analyst here for about 16 straight weeks on Primetime Sports. But you know him. He's here quite often during basketball season. The one and only John Brady, Final Four coach, Coach of the Year in the SEC a couple times, Coach of the Year in the Sun Belt, and the Louisiana State High School Coach of the Year when he was at Crowley. What's up, my friend?
You said it just like I wrote it.
That's it. I got it down, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Check is in
Way
the mail.
to go, man.
So how you doing, boy?
I'm doing good, baby. Doing good.
Basketball season. I forgot to announce that obviously people know that you are with Chris Blair. You started last season doing the color analyst with him on the road and at home games. What's that been like after a year?
Oh, it's been great.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how kind LSU people have been to me since I've come back and doing that.
You're a lot nicer these days, right?
Well, that's what they say.
That's what they say.
Well, it's stress-free living. It'll do that for you every time.
I tell you what, you
and
look
then Chris
great.
Blair's great to work with.
Yeah.
He's been great to me, real kind. We seem to work together really well. You know, it's like anything else. You know, we have to get used to one another. And when my time to chime in, and as you know, radio, you don't have a long time to explain. You've got to get in and get out pretty quick. And we've been able to work that out pretty good, and it's been fun, and I've really enjoyed it. And I can't thank Will Wade enough.
Right, that's the key. I was going to ask you.
How kind he's been to me and involving me. I don't bother him. He's not nervous about me being around.
Right.
And he shouldn't be. But you know how some guys are at that level. They're
No doubt,
paranoid
no
about
doubt.
how they tie their shoes. So, but Will's been really kind to me, good to me, and I appreciate it.
I'm just trying to picture if Dale Brown had been calling your games. I mean, that would have been interesting. But fact is, when I was looking, go ahead.
He couldn't have fit the small amount of words in a condensed period of time.
That's true. That's supposed to be where I learned to talk. But the fact is, by the way, it rarely happens. I saw Sonny Smith was doing it when I was living in Atlanta. Wimp Sanderson,
right.
They were both doing it for Auburn and Alabama. It's nice. But let's get back. People that don't know, John Brady took that 2006 team to the Final Four. We all remember that great win over Duke. Also that one over Texas to go to the Final Four in Indianapolis. But the best team that I think that he had was that team in 2000. Only in his third or fourth year at LSU. They got into the top 5. They finished like 3rd in the country. Stromile, Swift, and that group. Real quick, because I don't talk about that group with you as much. Just kind of give me a memory of that team and what your thoughts are about it.
I thought we were the best team in the country.
I did too.
At one time, we won 8 or 9 in a row, and at one time in the SEC, we beat Ole Miss 30-something at Ole Miss. It's still the worst SEC loss in the history of Coleman Coliseum at Alabama that we put on them, like 38 or something. In SEC play on the road.
That's tough, man.
Yeah. And that team there was really, really good. Stromile Swift is one of the nicest guys. He and Jabari Smith was.
Yes.
Jabari's about
From
7 foot.
Yeah.
And Stromile 6'9". They worked well together. Lamont Rowland was a starting guard on that team, tough as nails. Brian Bashir was a great forward, and Torres Bright from Slidell was a starting point guard. Great chemistry, and probably 5 of the toughest-minded guys playing together I've ever coached.
I'm going to tell you what, that 2006 team got to give you 3 letters behind or in front of every time somebody says Final Four coach, because
That's
that
right.
just puts you in another stratosphere.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I mean, that is when you're a Final Four coach. You know, people think of you a little differently.
Well, the thing at the Final Four now, what they started is they have a Final Four coaches club.
Yeah, I know.
And we all the coaches that went to the Final Four go to that luncheon,
Oh,
and they put jackets on the previous Final Four coaches that hadn't been before.
All right.
So you sit in that room and start looking around. There's some real guys in there that have coached really well, and I am fortunate to be part of that group.
Well, I remember either the year after or the year after that, I was with Tim Brando in the lobby of the place you were. You came down and you opened that coat up. Look what I got here. Final Four. They can't take that away, baby.
They give you the jacket.
Hey,
and the guys who don't win it have silver buttons. The guys that win it have gold buttons.
So you got silver.
There is a distinction.
A lot of silver.
Yeah, a lot of silver.
By the way, yeah, there's a lot of great coaches that never get a chance to make it, and that's kind of wild that my man did it. Hey, real quick, this team, if you've been around them all last year, that you lost two big key players, Tremont Waters to the NBA, as well as Naz Reid.
And let's don't forget
Cavell
Big B.
Williams. You took the word out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Cavell Big B. Williams. That's three big losses. This team has some additions, but how do they make up for those guys?
Well, it's just a different type of team.
Yeah.
The LSU team last year, were able to rebound the ball, get tip dunks, offensive rebounded big time. Tremont Waters created a lot of positive plays for everybody else because of the ability to get in the paint and kick the ball out. This team is different. We don't have a dominating postman. We're not as big. We don't have the presence on the floor. But uncharacteristic of what we did against VCU, the strength of our team is in our guard play.
Right.
We should be able to take care of the ball. We should be able to create plays off of the dribble drive to the goal, which we do from time to time. But this team offensively hadn't been as consistent as it needs to be. And the first two games, we've had a tendency to turn the ball over, and it certainly showed up at VCU with 26 turnovers and allowed them 37 points off of our turnovers.
I have to ask you, I know that game was several days ago, but Will Wade going back to where he coached, he took them to, he actually took them to the tournament, and he was assistant coach, I believe, on the Final Four team.
That's right.
VCU when they were big underdogs. But no, going back in, what was that like last week when going into that environment? They were on his tail. I want to know as an announcer, you heard it all. What was up?
Well, you know how fans are.
Yeah.
They love you, and then they cannot love you.
Oh,
and
yes.
certainly he felt the no love when he walked back into that building simply because he left them to come to LSU.
Right.
So all of a sudden he's a bad guy, even though he won a bunch of games and went to 2 NCAA tournaments there. He was the bad guy. So they let him have it when he walked out on the floor. He walked out on the floor with about 5 minutes to go before tip-off. And you could tell he walked on the floor because they all booed in unison, almost like they rehearsed it.
Wow.
So it was an emotional game.
Sure.
Emotional game for him and our coach.
And they're a good team, by the way.
They're 137 straight sellouts against us at
Wow.
VCU.
Wow.
Yes,
wow.
and they went to 7 straight NCAA tournaments, took a year off 2 years ago, got back in the tournament a year ago. So 8 out of 9 years they've been to the NCAA tournament. So they have a tradition of winning.
You never want to lose, but that's not a bad loss.
That's not a bad loss.
No,
they were like 25th, 26th in the country.
Yeah.
And they trap every ball screen.
Yeah.
They press you full court. They trap. We didn't do a good job of it. It showed up, and that was the difference in the game is the 37 points we allowed off of our 26 turnovers.
Well, this team, obviously, Tremont Waters bailed this team out so many times. He was magic with the ball. Naz Reid gave you some nice shooting, particularly the end of the season. He was really good.
He started getting better.
Marlon Taylor has not played yet. I'm going to hold off on him, but the leadership that's back, Skylar Mays has got to be the leader. I know he had some issues handling the ball. You said they were trapping. It was a little bit tougher. Emmett Williams is back. Talk about the main core that is back and what they're going to provide for this year's
Well,
team.
most quality college basketball teams start with guard play. Javonte Williams and Skylar Mays have to be the leaders of this team. Javonte had a good freshman year.
Smart.
Yeah, Javonte Smart.
right.
Little inconsistent, and he's been the first 2 games a little inconsistent, but Javonte Smart and Skylar Mays have to be the leader of this basketball team. Then you throw in Emmett Williams and Darius Days. Those are 4 experienced young players. Skylar's a senior, but those 3 guys are sophomores, but they're experienced sophomores. So that's got to be the core of our team. And then the freshman we signed from Birmingham that Coach Wade's staff signed, he's a really, really good recruit, and he's got to come on and give us some scoring and consistency in play. He's 6'8", but still with him being 6'8", Emmett Williams at 6'7", we don't have the presence on the floor that we did a year ago.
I love Emmett Williams, the way he attacks the floor. Attacks the ball on the rim. But the new guys, for the people that haven't seen him, just give them a quick scouting lesson on who they are. Trendon Watford, let's start with him from Birmingham.
Well, Trendon Watford is a 6'8", really a perimeter player more so than a back-to-the-basket guy at his size. He's long, He can handle the ball. He can bring it up. He's a good three-point shooter. He hasn't shot a lot of threes, but I think he's a good three-point shooter. He's good off the bounce. And then we have Charles Manning is a junior college player from Florida who's very talented, very, very good athlete. But like most junior college players, it takes them almost 3/4 of the year to get adjusted to the speed of the game at the SEC level. So those are the two main players for us that are coming in. We have a young freshman guard named Bishop that's going to play better as the year goes along, but he's not quite ready for SEC play. So those two, we're 7 deep right now without our player that's hurt with his foot.
Well, I want to talk about him. I want to circle back because that was the most exciting guy. I mean, he skywalks. I mean,
tremendous.
I remember seeing footage of him in high school, and I thought it was just fake because he was this far over the rim. And then we saw what he can do. He adds some dynamite moves, and obviously he's got the athletic ability that makes his team tick.
He's NBA athletic.
Right.
Now, he's not an NBA player quite yet because he's got to learn how to play and use the athleticism in a positive way when it comes to playing basketball. But athletically, he's as good as anybody. I don't know when he's coming back. I think he's making some progress. I thought he may come back for the VCU game, but he wasn't able to do it. Maybe he can play a little bit against Nichols, but certainly when we go to Jamaica and play in Montego Bay next Friday and Sunday.
So when do I go on this trip with you?
Whenever you want to go, Scott. I'm sure Will would just love for you to come.
Absolutely. By the way, we're going to take a break, but can I pay you a little more to stay? Because I don't usually have guests stay another segment.
Whatever you want me to do.
We're coming back. We're not done. We just talked about LSU, but I want to talk about how they fit in the SEC. They were 16-2 last year, #1 in the SEC in Will Wade's second year at LSU. What a performance that was. How are they going to do this year? We're going to talk about that and maybe a little bit about the national picture. It seems like any year you can put these same 5 or 6 teams and they are in the top 6, and it's no different this year. We'll be right back on Primetime Sports.
Hey, New Orleans, get ready for some rugby. There's a new pro sports team in town, and it's NOLA Gold. Now, I can tell you, once rugby gets in your blood, you never lose that bond. I'm John Goodman. Get your tickets now at NOLAGoldRugby.com, and I'll see you in the scrum.
Hey, don't forget my pimento cheese. Of course.
Okay, I'll take it from here.
For the love of palmetto cheese.
Did you know that GMFS Mortgage is the largest independent mortgage company in Louisiana? Their 250 employees have helped over 79,000 customers make the dream of home ownership come true. They funded over $12.9 billion in loans right here in Southeast Louisiana. If you're ready to buy, build, or renovate a new home, or just need to refinance, call the company born and raised here, GMFS Mortgage.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At Mid-City Lane's the home of rock and roll.
Make no mistake about it, life's more fun with seafood.
Oysters don't swim.
They do in butter.
What'd you get? A little bit of everything to make everyone happy.
Acme Oyster House. Life really is more fun with seafood.
Handling a gator like this can be scary, and this is pretty risky too.
But do you know what's really dangerous? Dealing with the insurance company after your car wreck.
If you've been injured, get a fighter. That's why you need to call me. I'm not afraid to handle them, and I'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve. So if you've been hurt, hire a professional. Just call me. Get it done.
Get Gordon. Get it done.
Call 1-800-653-9968.
Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
And welcome back to Primetime Sports. And the reason I'm smiling so much, not only I love John Brady, but I love basketball. This is my kind of sport. This is what I always get jazzed up to talk about. We just talked a little bit about the LSU Tigers, what we can expect as far as the talent on the team. But how do they match up, John, with the rest of the conference? Last year, 16-2. I mean, that was a phenomenal year. You had some players that were very clutch on that team. You had two teams, 15-3 in that conference, that were very good. Tennessee lost a lot of guys. Obviously, Kentucky's always there. But the 11-7 team, Auburn, is the one that went to the Final Four. What's the conference like this year?
Well, the SEC last year, I think, by far was the best in the country as it went along. You know, what Will Wade did last year, undefeated in the Southeastern Conference on the road, four overtime wins, 3 of them on the road. I mean, that's incredible.
It really is.
That just shows you how fragile a successful season can be as it relates to maybe a normal season. You win a bunch of close games. That's what they were able to do last year. And I think a lot of that was because of Tremont Waters and how well he played in the last 5 minutes of those games. But the SEC this year, I think the SEC has shrunk. I don't think it's as good from top to bottom. I think some of the teams that were at the bottom, Missouri, Georgia, are improved. They're going to be better. I think Arkansas is going to be better coached by the assistant that was with Johnny at LSU.
Yeah, right.
They're going to be defensive-minded. They're better. But, you know, Kentucky's already lost a home game to Evansville.
I know, that was crazy.
Florida gets beat by Florida State. Alabama's given up a home game to Penn. Auburn had to hit one at the buzzer to beat South Alabama. So I think some of and Tennessee lost 3 pros now. I think the league has shrunk, which I think gives LSU, even though I don't think we're as good as we were a year ago, I think we still have an opportunity to finish high in the league because the league has shrunk and the top is not as good as it was a year ago.
We mentioned the top and the bottom. There's like Ole Miss. Your friend Kermit Davis is coaching, obviously, the Ole Miss Rebels. He was the SEC Coach of the Year. You can thank Will Wade for that. But moving forward, them, Mississippi State, South Carolina, there's a lot of decent teams in the middle. How are they?
They're good teams. On any given night, I think the SEC this year is going to be so competitive, and it's going to be so important to win games at home because on the road it's going to be extremely difficult. It's always difficult, but because I think there's so much balance within the league that I think winning on the road is going to be paramount in how far you advance in the NCAA tournament and your seeding in the SEC tournament. Plus, Scott, you and I talked off the air, there's a lot of really good coaches in this league now. I mean, top to bottom, all of these guys have been really successful at the NCAA level and have won a bunch of games in their careers.
Well, I mean, I didn't even mention Florida. My man Mike White, I apologize. Florida's always going to be pretty good. Last year they were 9-9 in conference. You had teams that were 11-7 that you would normally think Florida's better than. I mean, not to belabor this one, but are they going to be better?
They're picked second in the league by the coaches and by the media, but they got beat the other night by Florida State. So I think they're finding themselves. They have the best transfer in the country in Blackshear from Virginia Tech. He's an Orlando kid that came back home to play his senior year as a transfer. So I think eventually when they work out the chemistry, they're going to be really good because they are extremely talented.
He may be an Orlando kid, but he's from that Blackshears. They have a bunch of them from South Georgia. And they might have migrated, but there's a lot of them over the years, and they were very good. Now, I mentioned this earlier, but the teams that are always in the top, I mean, literally, you could just say, who are the best teams in your mind? You might not have seen basketball for 20 years. Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina, Kansas, Louisville, Michigan State. Literally, those are the top 6 teams in the entire country.
And you know what? They're the top teams this year.
They are. That's what I'm saying. I just looked at the rankings. The other ones in there are the new kind of powers, not new, but in the last 20 years, like 10 years, Gonzaga, Villanova, and then you have the 2 teams, and I'm going to start there, the 2 teams that were in the finals last year, a little bit of a surprise on both. One was a 1 seed, but pretty much the one that at least people were picking, that was Virginia, and they beat your friend Chris Beard at Texas Tech, who had one of the best runs in NCAA history.
Well, I'm gonna get you on this. I know you're an offensive-minded guy, but those 2 teams that you just talked about, Texas Tech and Virginia, they're all based on defending and rebounding. And I think as you go deeper into the NCAA tournament, Michigan State, Tom Izzo's a rebound defensive guy. I think the deeper you go in the NCAA tournament, the scores seem to shrink a little bit, and I think if you can defend it and rebound it consistently at a high level without fouling carelessly or needlessly, as I used to say all the time, you have a chance to advance. And those 2 guys at Virginia and Texas Tech, Chris Beard, Tony Bennett, extremely outstanding coaches.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy for both of them. They were both. But I'm going to make a prediction right now, only because I love guard play. One of the guards does not play for Michigan State yet. We've seen Cassius, that combination they're going to have with Langford. He's been hurt. I think that's going to be my pick. I know there's like 20 teams that could win. You got one off the top of your head?
I don't have one. I hadn't studied it enough. But I always like Carolina and I always like Kansas because I think Roy Williams and I think Bill Self are two outstanding coaches. They have good talent, and I've always believed that good coaching with good players make for outstanding teams, and those two programs have them both in place.
And, you know, speaking of programs, one of the teams we mentioned was Louisville. Post Pitino, we weren't sure where they were going to go. Obviously, you know, they had Donovan Mitchell go pro, and then they're actually back in the elite again. Did you think it would be this soon?
They're top 4 or 5 in the country.
Yeah.
You know, Louisville is one of those names that every player in America knows. You have to have somebody who can sell it. The head coach here now can sell it. It's like Kentucky. Every coach that's coached at Kentucky has won a national championship except Gillespie and
At Kentucky?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, but
Eddie Sutton?
Eddie Sutton didn't win. Only
right.
2 in the history of the program hadn't won a national championship.
I just pulled that right out of the thing.
That's pretty good.
Right.
So I think Louisville's one of those type programs that has the name. If you sell it and you package it right, you got a chance to be in the top 5, top 10 every year.
You're right. I'm going down in my head. Calipari, Tubby, obviously Rick Pitino, and then go back to Joe B. and obviously the Rupp, Adolph Rupp. So did I get them all? I don't know.
Yeah, you got them.
I got them all. Hey,
I'm not going to question you, Scott.
I know that you're not too into it yet because you haven't learned all the players, but I think from what I've seen in the first couple of weeks, there's no Zion that's going to dominate the headlines. I'm not saying he's head and shoulders above everybody because he was such a scintillating player. He got all the headlines. This year it seems to be more spread out, and I like it that way.
Well, I think the only one that may do it, and he's certainly got a lot of attention now because Memphis has defied the NCAA, is the freshman they have. He is extremely talented.
Yeah.
I've watched some clips. I hadn't seen him in person, but I've watched clips on him. And he is an outstanding talent. Long, lengthy, block shots, run the floor. Really, really an outstanding player.
Stroman Swiftest? I mean,
similar build, similar type player. And he's projected after his freshman year maybe to be the #1 pick in the NBA draft. So he's a guy like Zion that may dominate college basketball, but he won't get the juice or the publicity at Memphis as he would maybe if he was doing it at Duke.
Penny Hardaway, though, I like teams like that because Memphis has over the years had good teams, but they aren't obviously Duke. By the way, defying the NCAA, this team could win 30 straight games and be plays, and they might have 30 straight forfeits at the end of the season. What do you think about stuff like that? I know you're not a big fan of the NCAA.
Well, with everything going on with the NCAA now, this you know, playing with your likeness and all of this type of thing, they're taking a lot of hits at a lot of fronts, and this is another one where they just defied the NCAA. They're going to play the young man anyway, and they're going to take their chances and see what happens. It's not going to hurt the young man because he's going to go pro anyway. Where it's going to hurt him if the NCAA does rule against them and they put them on probation for 3 or 4 years down the road and take 2 or 3 scholarships a year away from them. That's the problem they're going to have if they lose this particular case.
Well, John, I think you've signed just about every ball we have. You've been here. I got like 12 of these balls signed backstage, but I know you love these shirts.
Wear them all the time.
And I know the restaurant gift certificates, you always make me give them back. So I might even give you another. This is my favorite color. They call that gunmetal. You ever heard of that?
Gunmetal? No, I like gunmetal.
No, it's nice. It's kind of between black and gray and navy. It's just nice. I love it.
Perfect.
Task Performance, you put that on every person that wears that.
Unbelievable.
I'm talking about everybody.
Yeah.
They love it. They love it. New Orleans brand, Task Performance. Check them out. Hey, also want to thank a lot of people here. I love my new studio at Loyola. Thank you, everybody at Loyola University. We are on WWL. Hey, Gio's in the house. WWL. And also CST. Loyola, he used to be the coach at AD right there. I think we're going to go to dinner after this. But hey, everybody, I want to thank them, and I want to thank the producer, Albert DuPont, Sonia Due, the Redhead Tsunami, and everybody else out there. Hey, we'll see you again next week. Hey, football fans, we're going to go back to talking about helmets and no more basketball next week. We're going to go back and forth. We'll see you next week right here on Primetime Sports.